Welcome back to All About Winning Daily Fantasy Sports. My name is Ty Patton. It's hard to believe that Week 11 is up on us, and to kick it off, we have an AFC North battle between the 5-4 Pittsburgh Steelers and the 3-6 Cleveland Browns. Cleveland has been installed as a 2.5-point home favorite with an over/under set at 40.5 points. For those of you who may be new to this channel, I like to begin breaking down the Showdown contest by first looking at the numbers that are fantasy relevant to the Showdown contest itself. Up to and including this past Monday's game between the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers, there have been 69 Showdown contests. These contests have an average winning score of 133.57, and the average winning captain score is 43.28 points. I focus a lot of attention to the captain's position, as the average captain score represents 31% of the average winning score. With this in mind, the captain's position breaks down as follows. The underdog running back has been in the captain spot more than any other position 16 times for 23%. The favorite quarterback has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 11 times for 16%. And the favorite wide receiver has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 11 times for 16%. The favorite running back has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 9 times for 13%. And the underdog wide receiver has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 9 times for 13%. The favorite defensive special team has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 5 times for 7%, and the underdog quarterback has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 4 times for 6%. The underdog kicker has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 2 times for 3%. The underdog tight end has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 1 time for 1%, and the favorite tight end has been in the captain spot for the winning lineup 1 time for 1%. I further broke these down by positions combined. Running backs can combine for the most in the winning lineup for the captain spot, 25 times for 36%. Wide receivers are next for 20 times for 29%. Quarterbacks 15 times for 22%. All others represent 9 times for 13%. I also consider the overall record of the captain position, which breaks down as follows. Running backs are 20-5 when they're in the winning lineup in the captain spot. Wide receivers, there's no difference in them. They're 10-10. Quarterbacks are 10-5, and the defense special teams 5-0. So if you're going to use the defense special teams in the captain spot, you might want to focus on the defense that you think is going to win the game, which just makes sense. Knowing that the captain's position represents approximately 1/3 of the winning score, my process involves the following. Developing a game script, which means who's going to win, what's their path to victory, meaning passing game, running game, who are the players needed to do this, and who are the most valuable players that I could plug into a captain's position to make this game script come true. In this game, the Steelers come in on a roll, winning 5 of their last 6 and 4 in a row. Likewise, the Browns are coming in off a tough win versus Buffalo after losing 4 in a row. If Cleveland has any slim hopes of a playoff run, they definitely need to win this game. Their backs are against the wall with a 3-6 record. I will add that the Browns are 1 win, 8 losses, and 1 tie in their last 10 versus Pittsburgh. Their last win coming back in 2014, and last year's game at home they tied 21-21. The Steelers are 1-2 on the road and 4-2 at home. However, the 4 teams that Pittsburgh have lost to have a combined record of 31 wins and 6 losses, so they played some really high quality opponents. Both teams are going to come in and hope to control the game through the running game. Pittsburgh's running game was a little bit better because Cleveland gives up a lot to the running back position. They're ranked number 21 versus the running back position, I think 27th overall versus the run, and they are more stingy against the pass. Cleveland's ideal situation is to stack the box, stop Connor, and make Rudolph beat him. Now, on the other hand, Cleveland wants to establish a run game, use their defense to put pressure on Rudolph, but Pittsburgh is very stingy versus the run. They're number 6 versus the running back position, and I believe number 1 overall versus the run. So it's going to be hard for Cleveland to move the ball on the ground. I believe Pittsburgh's going to be able to move the ball on the ground. Cleveland's going to have to mix it up a little bit more. and put the ball in Mayfield's hand. They need Mayfield to have a clean game. Um, and last week his game was pretty clean, but up until that, the four previous losses, he had turned the ball over a lot. He's got 9 touchdowns and 12 interceptions in the games he's played this year. So that's why there's a lot of interest as well in the Pittsburgh defense tonight, understandably. And they're going to be real chalky both in the captain spot and in the flex spot. And it's kind of hard to get away from them. But I believe that Cleveland's going to come in. They know their back's against the wall. They know they have to move the ball through the air. Cleveland is going to be, or Pittsburgh is a little bit easier to move the ball in the middle of the field. I don't believe that Cleveland's going to be able to get over the top, but I do feel like there's going to be some underneath stuff, and with Beckham and Landry, and Mayfield loves to target Beckham. Even in a tough game last week against Buffalo, he still had 12 targets. He only had 5 receptions, but Mayfield was going to him regardless. This matchup tonight, he should be covered a lot by Joe Hayden, which, I mean, Hayden's not a slouch, but it's a lot easier than what he's faced in the previous weeks. And I'm leaning towards Cleveland being able to win this game. I know they're going to have to do it through the air. They're not going to be able to impose their will with Chubb. Chubb will get his, but I don't think he's going to be as high scoring. And I'm actually, this lineup that I'm going to show you that I'm building, I'm actually fading Chubb and going more towards the Cleveland passing game. So with that being said, this is the lineup that I've developed, and I'll explain why as we go along. I want Odell Beckham Jr. in my captain spot. He'll be contrarian compared to Connor and Chubb. They'll be two of the highest owned in the captain spot, and the other one I believe is going to be the Steelers in the captain spot. And we'll talk about that a little bit more when we talk about the optimized lineups that I built. But I like Beckham. I feel that this is their path to victory. I don't feel like it's through Chubb. Beckham is the type of player that can bust a slate open. I remember and obviously Pittsburgh is a lot better than the Jets, but in this Jets game where he had 31 fantasy points, it was that one, he only had 6 receptions for 161 yards, and it was that on 10 targets, it was that one real long touchdown. He's that type of player, and that's the type of player that can bust a slate. I'm going to differentiate myself. This lineup's going to go into a larger GPP, and so I'm going to use Beckham to try to be different from everyone else. So like I always do, if I use a wide receiver in the captain spot, I always want to use their quarterback in the flex spot. My reasoning for that is if that wide receiver is going to go off, so there's only one way he's going to go off to score a lot of points, and that's if this quarterback throws him the ball. So, I mean, he could run a couple reverses, maybe take one to the house that way, but that's not the scoring that you need to for your captain to be the top scorer. In DraftKings, PPR, a lot of receptions, some yards. With this particular, if the average captain's winning score is 43 points, my path to 43 points means I got to get close to 30 actual points. For Beckham, that's 9 receptions, 100 yards, which gives me 19 plus 3 at the 100-yard mark, 22, and a touchdown, 28. That gives me 42 points, which puts me in the ballpark. That's not out of the realm of possibilities in this game. Next, I'm going to add another target for Mayfield, but it's going to be a little bit different than a wide receiver. I'm going to put Kareem Hunt in there. Hunt had 9 targets in that game last week in his first game with Cleveland, and that's a huge amount of targets. He had a large snap percentage, and they're not going to be, I don't believe they're going to be able to move the ball on the ground versus Pittsburgh. But I do believe that throwing it to Hunt out of the backfield, they did split Hunt out wide a few times. So I'm going to fade Chubb, but I'm going to get my exposure to their running game and some of the passing game through Kareem Hunt. So now I have Mayfield with 2 targets and with Beckham in the captain spot. Now, me personally, I like to use I only like to use one of the four between the defense, special teams, and the field goal kickers. This lineup is a little bit different for me. I'm taking a little different stance. But with the field goal kickers, they do provide a nice floor. I generally like to go with the field goal kicker that's favored. I like the home field goal kickers. So in this case, I'm going to go with and he's less in price too, Siebert. He hasn't missed a field goal this year. He hasn't kicked as many as everyone else, but he hasn't missed one yet. And Boswell's a really good kicker too. So it's a toss up. I'm with this build. I'm going with the team that's projected to score more points. They have a higher implied total, so I'll go with the field goal kicker from that team. But next, I'm going to use the biggest piece of Pittsburgh's offense, which is Connor. I believe Connor's going to get his. Cleveland has a hard time stopping the running game. They also have a hard time tackling. Connor's first game back, he does catch passes out of the backfield, which is good for Draftkings PPR. He's the big weapon that Pittsburgh has. Gets the majority of the carries. The main thing with Connor is staying healthy. Averaging 18.4 fantasy points per game. Some of the games that Cleveland has had trouble with, like the game against Seattle with Carson, they have trouble with the better running backs. And the last piece of this puzzle is the Steelers. This is, like I said, I usually only like to use one of the four between the two field goal kickers and two different special teams. But I feel like the Steelers defense correlates really well with Connor. They've scored a touchdown in 3 of the last 4 games. I do feel like there'll be some regression to that. But I feel like they'll be able to get to Mayfield in this game script that Cleveland's not going to be able to move the ball on the ground. They're going to have to rely on Mayfield to do some things. You can see a strip sack, interception, maybe take one to the house, which that would correlate well with them having to throw the ball more to stay in the game. So there you go. I'm leaving 1,600 on the table, which is a good thing in the Showdown contest. I've seen something that said the average amount left on the table for a winning Showdown lineup was just a little bit over $1,000. At 1,600, that just tells me that this lineup is possibly contrarian when you got that much money left over. So I like this lineup. I'm going to go with this in a larger GPP. If you use it and copy it, look up here for the Cowboy Fan 215. That'll be me and you splitting it. But that's the lineup. That's the stance that I'm going to make. This game was really difficult to project, I thought. Now, another thing that I like to do is use an optimizer. And what I do is I take all the players that I'm interested in, and the optimizer I use allows me to pick the captains that I like and check off the rest of the players that I like. I set it for 150 lineups. I put a couple of rules in there. If the quarterback's in the captain spot, I'd want at least 2 targets with him. If the wide receiver's in the captain spot, I at least want his quarterback. And then I just basically let it go. I don't want more than 50% of the flex possibilities in my lineups, and I adjust those. Like Connor, I set him up to 70%, and obviously had for my captains I had Connor, Chubb, Beckham, Mayfield, Rudolph, and I think the other one was Hunt and Schuster, and I just spread the ownership or the exposure out evenly, and I let it go. And this was the first lineup that was produced. It had the Steelers defense in the captain spot. What that does is that opens up a lot of salary left over. So 1,700 in the captain spot, 13.2 fantasy points per game. If they get that touchdown and they keep it real low scoring, they could possibly be the highest scoring. Mix in some sacks. I don't like to use a defense in the captain spot on a game that I think is going to be low scoring because I don't feel like the opportunities are there for the defense to score. If these teams are trying to run the ball, then you can see a situation where it's lower scoring. You might want to use the defense in the flex spot, but there's not going to be a lot of opportunities for them to score like sacks, and the game's going to have a slower pace, less plays. It's just less opportunities. So for me, in this type of game, I don't really like a defense in the captain's spot, but this is what the optimizer did. Next, it had the Browns. Then it had Odell Beckham Jr., Chubb, Connor, and Hunt. And this one left 1,200, which is a lot of times on the optimizer, you don't get that till you get down lower, and then you're leaving. It's just giving you all kinds of ridiculous $4,000 or $5,000 left on the table, or whatever. This covers all the running game: Chubb, Connor, Hunt, with perhaps the main target on the board, with both defenses playing a role. Now, Monday night's game that worked out with the Seattle and San Francisco. Both defenses took one to the house, and having them in your lineups would definitely pay off. This is interesting. I'll probably put it in a larger GPP somewhere. I don't MME, not because I think it's crazy or anything. If I could, I would. It just makes sense. If you can build your lineups that way. But for me on the optimizer, I want to just look at the different randomizations of the players that I like, and then just have maybe a different take on things, that you might be blindsided or tunnel vision. This is what I'm going with. This is what I like, and that's it. And you don't see the other possibilities. And that's what I use it. If I play the quarters or 50 cents and I max entry, this offers me the ability to use a lot of different randomizations, so without having to try to build it manually. So there you go. This about wraps up the Showdown video. I want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate my subscribers have been going up, my viewers have been going up. I really appreciate you guys following me. I want to encourage you to feel free to post any opinions or comments that you may have below. It really helps me out a lot if you guys share this video, like it, subscribe to it, hit the notification bell so you get notified when my next video posts. That really helps me tremendously. I'll be posting my quarterback video for week 11 shortly as we start to begin building for week 11. If there's anything you guys like to see, I'll be trying to implement the charts that I've created a few weeks ago. Hopefully have solved my computer issues that I had last weekend, and be able to get some really good information out to you guys. Again, I want to thank you guys for joining me. My name is Ty Patton. This is all about winning daily fantasy sports. You can also follow me at Twitter at winningabout. And good luck tonight, and I'll see you real soon. Thanks a lot.